And welcome to our latest video in our 2022 Fall Sports Nightcap Series. I am Bryson Turner, and with me is Eric Lopez, and we have a special treat for UCF Volleyball fans. Coming to us live from the state of Minnesota are all three Minnesota native players from the UCF Volleyball team. It's Dresden Pass, Kari Zumach, and McKenna Melville. Ladies, how y'all doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. All right, now, ladies, our first question we want to ask: did you all know each other before coming to UCF? Was there, like, because you're all from Minnesota, is that was just coincidence, or did you all know each other? McKenna, you start. Give me the history of the three of you here.
I knew Kari better than I knew Dreszy. Kari and I are the same age, so we played kind of a lot together, or she was at a different club, so we always played against each other. So I knew who she was pretty well. And then Dreszy, I didn't know hardly at all. I think I maybe knew her name, but she was at the same club I was. She's just a year younger, and our club was big, so I didn't think twice about it. And then she came down for camp. She was wearing a Northern Lights shirt, and I was like, I know that club. So I looked her up. I was like, who is this girl? And then I was like, wait, she's actually pretty good. So I was like, we should get her. And then that's kind of how that happened.
That's amusing. Wow, I didn't know. That's pretty funny. Dressy, what do you remember the first time you met McKenna there? The story she just showed there.
Yeah, so I kind of knew who both Kari and McKenna were just because you kind of look more up to the older girls than you do look down to the younger girls. So I knew both of them. I knew they didn't know me, but I didn't care. But yeah, I showed up at the camp and I saw McKenna walk in and I was like, oh no. But I knew who she was and I was like, okay, if she's here, then this program's going to be a really good thing for me. And I mean, ever since then, we've become best friends. So, and Kari too, she's joined the team last season and all three of us have bonded so well with our Minnesota connection and everything. So yeah, but.
Wow. Kari, what can you add there? You've known McKenna the longest. I did not know that. And then you get to know Dressy.
Me and Dreszy actually went to a setter camp together when we were like 13. So I knew who Dreszy was because I used to be a setter back when I was at Northern Lights. And then I always obviously knew who McKenna was. We never played on the same team in club, but we always played against each other. And I'm a right side and she was an outside / libero. And obviously both of these two are really good. So I knew who they were.
Describe volleyball in the state of Minnesota. What's in the water over there? Because there's a lot of talent that comes from that state. You're all part of it. Just describe volleyball in the state of Minnesota growing up in that state. What is it about it? Because clearly there's something there special there for it to be a volleyball player.
Yeah, I think it's really good because right now there's now 2 Division I schools in Minnesota, but that's it. So if you get all these players that are borderline Division I, Division II, you're going to see a lot of Minnesota players go out of state. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing. I bet if you look at like where people came from, there's a lot of people that come from Minnesota that are out of state players just because we want to have the Division I experience. We want to go to a big school, but the University of Minnesota just wasn't up our alley or they didn't want us or little things like that. So I think that's where a lot of players come from. And I think a lot of Minnesotans are looking to get out of the cold for a few parts of the year, for a few years at least, to get out and then see something else.
How is the weather up there in Minnesota right
now? I can
now?
show you.
Yeah, I was gonna
say
it's snowing.
We're having a snowstorm right now.
All right. Yeah. We're not, all right. We won't rub it in that it's like 69 degrees here in Orlando and sunny right now as we record and talk this. All right. So, Kari, as you were thinking of coming to UCF, I'm assuming, did you reach out to McKenna? How can we, or was that just, or did you not reach out? I'm curious from your standpoint because you decided to come here to transfer. So did you reach out?
McKenna basically made it happen. So I emailed Brian originally, like in my transfer process, and I was like, hey, like, I know a lot about your program. I know some players on your team. Like, I'm just talking to a couple different schools right now. And then Brian had called me, and then I know that McKenna had talked to the staff, and they were like, oh, do we like this girl? And then McKenna had reached out to me, and then we scheduled a tour, and I don't know, it happened really quick. When I was originally transferring back in, I don't even know what year that was, 2019, we had talked briefly, but so I was just going to end up here one way or another.
Kennedy, how do you recall the recruiting pitch? What was your recruiting pitch to Kari?
I basically told her she was coming. There wasn't really like no, you can't go here. You can't go. Like, no, you're gonna come. I remember we went to the beach that day, and she's like, "This is so abnormal." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Most times you go on a recruiting visit, you got to be so formal and blah blah blah." And we're like, "Nope, we're at the beach." Like this is my friend group. I had one of my best friends down, and I was like, "This is who we hang out with. This is what we do." So, and she fit right in. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, you can come here."
And it worked out. It worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, you're coming into this season. I mean, you're already coming off a season where unfortunately you had to lose all-time great players in Anne-Marie Watson and Narissa Moravec, two of the greatest blockers that this program's ever seen. Anne-Marie, of course, being a right side as well. So but then you come into this season and you end up getting Kari, who of course we just talked about, and Abby Hansen, who I remember talking to near the beginning of the season, and she mentioned how she heard of your endeavors from all the way in Oregon back when she was coaching there. So what was it like kind of assembling this team back together and kind of filling in the holes and kind of reloading for this season? McKenna.
Oh, I can go. I think it was really important that we got a good group of transfers, and we knew that. So I think Claudia did a really good job as well, but we all kind of bought into the transfer portal and knew that we needed some people from the transfer portal. So Abby and Kari coming in from the transfer portal, Emily Wilson came in as well. They all added great depth to the team that we needed. And I think this year, especially in the transfer portal, they added a level of maturity and volleyball IQ that really helped us get to that next level. Kari's been at a lot of different schools with a lot of different coaches. And then Abby just came in ready to work, and having those two come in every single day saying this is our goal and this is what we're doing is something that we definitely needed.
And I would say a big part of sorry, Kari.
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, as much as these players had to fill some shoes or whatever, they even did more than that. I think they came in with a great personality. I mean, I have never been closer with a team ever. So I think the culture of our team and how well we gel together. I mean, we would be at each other's houses even when we didn't have volleyball. We just wanted to hang out and spend time together. And I think that's like a huge part of just being in college and being a student athlete. It's not just about the volleyball, but yes, it is at the same time. But you build a family with these girls, you're with them 24/7. So having a great relationship with all of them is huge. And I will forever be grateful for that part of my time at UCF.
Kari, you mentioned before how you really love the connection you've had with this team, and how much has the transfer portal meant to you and that it allowed you to join these girls for this season?
Yeah, I think there's a stigma around the transfer portal, and there kind of always has been. Even the first time I entered, I was like, oh no, what are people going to think of me? Like, they're going to think like I wasn't good enough or da-da-da-da. But I think the transfer portal is a gift. It has provided me with so many different opportunities to be so many different places and meet different people. And I think something that the UCF staff does really well is they don't just recruit good players, they recruit good people. And you have to be able to just be a good person and mesh well with the team in order to be here. Like, even if you're this amazing athlete and you kind of just don't really fit right with the team, they might just be like, well, you're not going to mesh. And so I think it's really important that they take that into a part of their recruitment process. Is they're like, hey, we just want to let you know, like, this is kind of our team values, these are our team goals, and like fitting in with the team and our culture is really, really important here. And as soon as we kind of had that talk, I knew that it was a place that I wanted to be, because more than anything, I wanted to be surrounded by a group of people that most importantly cared about me off the court, because that's a big part of my life. And so, I mean, it's just a blessing that I got to be with this group of people, because as Dresden said, I've been on a lot of different teams, and this team's culture is something that I've never experienced. And it's so amazing that we all love each other. Like, when we go on away trips, sometimes you're like, oh, who am I going to room with? But when I was on this team, it was like, who do I get a room with? Like, it's a new person every single weekend, and you have the same amount of fun. It doesn't matter who you're with or who you're sitting by. Like, it was just such an amazing experience.
How quickly they all develop that chemistry? You obviously had great chemistry as a team. Was it right away? Did it take a while? Dressy, starting with you, when did you know that this team had great chemistry and, hey, not only could be, we could be another, not another special year?
I actually will give credit to McKenna because I think it started way before I even got there, and even probably the year before her with Jordan Pingle. I think it had been building for a couple years, and it just kept getting stronger every year when we got new transfers, new freshmen. No matter what it was, I think I could see it every year that we're getting closer, and I mean, I think it really showed on the court. The closer you are in the locker room, the better you are going to practice or be out on the court. So I would say it has just been developing year after year, and it's getting better. And I am excited to see where it goes with our friends that are still in the locker room, to see what they have going on. I know Claudia will take a big role in continuing this and taking charge and doing all that. But yeah.
Did you, by the way, Kara Dressy, I remember during the season when we, after a match, we talked. We said, hey, we got to come up with a nickname for the three of you. Did you ever come up with a nickname? Did that never materialize between the three of you, Minnesota? I mean, we had to come up with something.
No, I totally forgot about that.
Oh.
We can still work on it.
We'll still work on it.
I'm so sorry. I'm on break now, so I can use my brain cells.
All right, fair enough. You're understandable. Let me ask the three of you. What was unique this year is you all started about a week later than everybody else did. I remember talking to Coach Dagenet about it. He gave me a lengthy explanation about it. I don't really want to explain it because it was very lengthy, which I know surprises you that he gives a lengthy explanation about it. But I want to ask you all as players, from your standpoint, how weird was that to start a week later? You're probably watching everybody else play, all friends you have from other places play. What was that like for you? Was it weird? Was it frustrating? I mean, I'm not, what was that like starting a week later?
Yeah, I was pretty frustrated, to say the least. That's just who I am. I'm like, if they're playing, we should be able to find a way to play. Like, let's figure it out. And he gave me the same lengthy explanation. So I was like, all right, whatever. But I think the biggest thing is it fell on the players then. We made a goal that we're coming back that same day that everyone started. Like, that was the day that we were reporting. And that was a player thing. So technically nobody had to show up. And that day, all of us walked into the gym. And that's something that I think right then and there is when I kind of knew, like, okay, this team's bought in, like, we can do this. Like, nobody came in complaining. Nobody was like, oh, I didn't get an extra week at home, or I didn't get an extra week here. It's like, no, like, if everyone else is doing this, like, we should be in the gym doing this. And it fell on us as players. It fell on the captains to figure out weights times, open gym times, how long are we going to go? And then I think what we did was really cool, is that we did a lot of little team bonding things, or just hangouts that wasn't included in volleyball. And that helped us, I think, a lot more than being on the court every single day for 3 hours.
Yeah. And then you start the season playing Syracuse and Kansas State, who had played a week before. So I'm curious, what was it like to be on the court finally a week later against teams that basically had played a week earlier? I mean, that had to be kind of unique. Was there more nerves than usual because of that? Was it just normal season opening stuff?
I think we were itching. Oh, sorry, Dress. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We were itching to play. We wanted to get on the court so bad. I think it was more excitement than nerves. And we were kind of just like, hey, we have nothing to lose. Let's give them everything we got. We have been working just as hard as everybody else in the country. Just because we didn't have the schedule of, hey, this is our start date and we get to play, even though we started a little bit later, and obviously that was concerning for everyone, we were just as ready.
Yeah, and of course, the opener against Syracuse, McKenna would come with her first of millions of milestones she would have throughout the year. She had her 2,000th kill. So I'm going to ask you, Dressy and Kari, because we asked McKenna all year about her milestones, and she's got the coach talk ready to go. She deflected the answers perfectly and gave credit to her teammates, rightfully so. So I'll ask you both. Were you both aware of McKenna's milestones or records throughout the year as they were coming? Did you have any idea? Did you not know? Give me the teammate side of things as McKenna was coming up with these achievements, including obviously the big one against Lipscomb in Kansas when she broke the school record for career kills. Starting with you, Dressy.
I would say I wasn't really aware. I mean, I know McKenna's going to break records and get all these awards, and I'm so proud of her, but it's not like she would come into the locker room and be like, hey guys, I'm 5 kills away from blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, she's very humble about all of it. So it was almost like you said, she's so focused on the team. And I think that's always been her priority. It's not, oh, me, I want these awards or anything. It's nothing like that at all. It's 100% on the team. And like I said, she's just very humble with it. So not to sound like a bad friend, but no, I really didn't know anything that was coming up. And it was really funny because some of us would come into the locker room and we would see like she got a certain award on Twitter and we would be like, oh, congrats. Like we had no idea because we were playing the game. But yeah, so that was my perspective. But
I live on social media, so for like the first weekend, I was very keyed in on all these things. I had them marked down. I was ready to go. It was the most exciting thing ever. We'd be like kind of in the middle of the match or after match. I'd be like, McKenna, do you know what you just did? This is amazing. Oh my gosh, it was so awesome to watch, and we were all so excited for her. And she'd be like, guys, stop. Like she's like Dresden said, she's so humble in all these amazing ways. And it was even just more exciting to just hype her up because sometimes she gets like uncomfortable with the attention, and we'd be like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think Kari, you were the great PR person. I mean, you could be, public relations. You'd be a natural at it because you were definitely McKenna's #1 PR person.
I'm McKenna's #1 fan.
That's pretty good. That's very good. Of course, my job was to inform the audience on the broadcast of all the milestones, and then Bryson would usually ask all the questions on the post game there. That would work. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because we got 3 seniors here, but we obviously have 2 more. Amber Olsen, obviously, who not the biggest fan of media attention. Speaking of which, so she did a good job, not talking a lot of publicly, but she was an awesome player. So I want the 3 of you to talk about Amber because she's obviously very important to this team. Had an incredible year. I think finished top 5 all in the nation in assists percent. I think she probably should have gotten more recognition nationally award-wise. But all of you, just talk about Amber, what she means to this team and what she makes her such a special player.
Yeah, I don't think we get anywhere without our quarterback. And I've said it from the beginning. I say it to my younger kids now. I'm like, your setter is your quarterback. So learn to love that sport. And she really embraced the quarterback mentality. She led our team when we needed her to. And every single award has to come through her. Every dig has to come through her. Every serve, every swing, anything has to come through her at some point. And that's really great because every award should say McKenna Melville with the help of Amber Olsen, because you don't get a kill without Amber Olsen setting it. And that's kind of where I've been for the last 5 years, as I've had her. And I had Aaron. I think Aaron was my setter. I can't remember, but I think
18. Yes, you're correct. Yes,
yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Thank you for confirmation. But yeah, so Olsen twins, as some of them call them, but they were the bread and butter. And they get all the recognition in the gym. I think they could even get more. So they did a great job. Amber did a great job.
I would agree with that. I think, like McKenna said, your setter's your quarterback, and I think Amber just completely took over that role for this team and has been for the past couple of years. I mean, I came in as a setter, and then I transitioned to a DS. So I am very proud of how she has handled everything, and then even stepped further to get into that more of a setting role and take charge of, we're doing this, no, we're not doing this, like get together, like we're doing this as a team, taking charge, being one of our captains and everything. So yeah, I think she did an amazing job. And like McKenna said, I mean, I'm not a hitter, but like she said, everything goes through Amber. Dig, hitting, serving, serve, receive, everything possible. Like the game of volleyball wouldn't have been run without our setter, and Amber was amazing.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I completely agree. And as a setter, Amber knows that like she doesn't get the flashy awards, and unfortunately that's just a part of our sport for some reason. And she did an amazing job in her role, even though I only got to play with her for 1 year. Like I knew as soon as I came in the first open gym, she was an established not only player but teammate. And as the quarterback, she did an amazing job, just kind of letting us all know what our roles were. And her and Mac as a team kind of did everything together, which was amazing to watch. And I think as a team, we were really good at like whoever got the killer in practice, whenever we were celebrating something, it wasn't like a, oh, me glory moment. It was like, hey, nice set, or hey, nice pass, nice dig, whoever set up the play, great block touch, like those kinds of things. And whenever Mac would get an award, she would always, you know, credit Amber for her work, and obviously the team as well. And I think that was a really important thing. And we all know that Amber should have gotten more acknowledgement. I mean, we could say that about so many people, but she's such a hard worker, and she's not a big flashy person. I mean, same as Mac. And so they both work quietly, but it shows on the court.
Yeah. And of course, as McKenna mentioned, Aaron was the first setter in 2018. Dressy, part of your legacy at UCF is, if I remember correctly, was you had to step in for Amber when she was out in the conference tournament a couple years ago, that weird spring year, due to COVID and everything, where she was out for that conference tournament. And I think you stepped in as the setter, right? I mean, I remember McKenna would tell me it was a funky offense at that time. It was a quick adjustment, but Dressy, you stepped in and helped win that championship. I mean, I remember McKenna and Coach Todd would say, without you, you don't win. They don't win that championship. What do you remember about stepping into that role and that position? You know, you were a setter, so you knew it, but still, I mean, stepping in, you know how hot, but that's kind of part of your legacy there.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Amber did get COVID I believe it was my sophomore year, and we were traveling to Cincinnati for the conference tournament. So I kind of took it in. I was saying like, okay, I need to do this for my team. I might have not been playing the past couple months, but I need to step up and be there for my team. This isn't anything about me at all. It is 100% about my team. And so I kind of felt like I just went out there and did it for my team. I went in early every practice, stayed late every practice to make sure I was ready for my team for that tournament so we could go out there and win.
McKenna, you've been with Dressy a long time. I always felt like she was the glue on the team. The box score doesn't tell the value of Dressy, right?
Correct. Nobody gives Dressy enough credit. No, she comes in and she just has that stability to her. I think, pretty sure I played back row with her for most of the rotations this year. Dressy? Yep. I think I was with, yeah. I was with Dress. See, I don't know. But I was with Dress for the back row, and I can see the whole world back there. I can see everything that everyone's doing wrong or right, but I didn't notice Dressy. And if you don't notice Dressy, it means she's doing a good job. Same with like libero. If you don't notice those two, they're doing something right. So the fact that we didn't notice Dressy hardly at all this year, yes, it's a bad thing, but it's a really good thing to not notice Dressy. So she did a really good job, and she did her job very well.
Well, one thing you can notice Dressy in the service ace department. She ended up finishing with 26 at 26, which wasn't as much as she or Grimes, but it's certainly a fair amount. And so what was it like working? Because I know, McKenna, you broke into the top 10 all time in service aces this season. How much did kind of Dressy kind of show you the ropes and then kind of help you with the aces in your aces?
Well, okay, I'm going to be completely honest here, folks. I've been hiding this for 2 years now. I have the service yips, or I had.
No.
I couldn't I couldn't possibly serve. So I went before Dressy. And if you look, I am probably leading the nation in errors for serving. But couldn't serve, couldn't get the ball over, get back to the end line, and just freak out. So I missed 50% of my serves. They subbed in Stella, whatever. But Dressy had to go in next and serve. If you miss back-to-back serves, it's very noticeable. So there's a lot of pressure on Dressy to make her serve. I think that's right. Nope. Dressy went before first, you, and then me, and then Chloe. Oi! But anyways, those two were back there, and they knew that I sucked at serving, so they were like, I got to get my serve in because Mac's in between us. And if I miss, and then I know Mac's going to miss. So then Chloe's really screwed. But yeah, I had a really bad service. I figured it out a little bit towards the end, but yes, service yips. So Dressy had to step up. All the servers had to step up and basically not miss, which throws a lot more pressure on them.
Dressy, what's your view on that? Like, just your perspective on that.
So yeah, it wasn't a secret that McKenna was struggling with serving, but we honestly just took it as a team. We never were like, oh, come on, McKenna, like, make your serve. Like, it's not that hard kind of thing. It was like, okay, she's struggling. let's see how we can help her out. So yes, I would sub in and I would go before her, and in the back of my mind I would kind of be like, okay, let's see if we can rank a couple points just in case if McKenna struggles back there. So I wanted to help her out, and I mean, you said with my aces, I guess I did pretty good, but it wasn't really my purpose to be, oh, let's see if we could do this and that. I honestly just went back to that serving line and I said, okay, let's go. Like we'll get all 25 points if we want while I'm back there. So that way McKenna doesn't have to serve.
That's right. That's the goal.
We just assume you were bored. That's why, you want to make it more interesting by not, serving. Like, you didn't have any issue serving at Kansas, for example. All right, when you go up to Kansas, and we want to start with that tournament because I thought that was a big tournament for the team there. You open up with a dramatic 5-setter, I believe, against Omaha, back and forth match. Then the big one that everybody circled, Kansas, who was ranked at the time, and you destroyed them. I'm not even trying to be like, I mean, Bryson and I watched the match. You crushed them in 3 sets. I know they tried to make the run. I mean, they had a packed house. Take me through that kind of back-to-back matches there, starting with you, Kari. I want you to start with that. Tough match against Omaha. Back and forth, go a 5th set, which would become a theme, because you had one earlier in the year against Miami and Kansas State in 5 sets. You win another one. But then you play one of your best matches of the year and beat a really good Kansas team there. Take me through those 2 matches, Kari.
Yeah, so I think first starting with Omaha, it was good that happened because it kind of just was like, okay, we need to take one team at a time. We didn't overlook them by any means, but I think it was a good, little bit of a reality check. Like, we can't be looking forward this season to whoever we're playing next, especially in our conference. We have to take one match at a time, even if one team might be a more difficult opponent than the other. So I think that was a good test for us. And then Kansas, we weren't too much focused on the name or the ranking. We knew that they would be probably the toughest team we played that weekend. And I think we were very well prepared, even though before the match was a whole mess. But we were very excited. And as a team, I think nobody was really worried because we were well prepared. And speaking of people who don't get enough credit, Dressy had an amazing weekend that weekend. She had some really, really big time saves and kept us in a lot of those games. And I specifically remember that weekend for her, and that was awesome. And, Mac always carries us. And so even when we talk about the serving a little bit, it's like we all kind of are like, she puts us on her back for everything on this team. And this is a time where we can kind of repay her back and show her that we have her as well. But that weekend was a lot of fun. And after Kansas, we were like, that's amazing and that's great. But now we have another team we have to play. And this is a business trip. It's not just a one and done. So that was a really exciting weekend. I think it kind of set the tone for the rest of the weekend. And it was exciting that we were ranked after that win. And we worked hard enough to stay in that ranking since then.
This sets the stage for that Lipscomb match, which I think everybody in UCF history will remember that match for McKenna finally breaking the all-time kills record set by the great Renata Menchikova back in the 90s. What was it like kind of going into that? And Kari, you said that you keep up with this sort of thing. So what was kind of I mean, obviously, you like you said, it's a business trip, but what was kind of the atmosphere going into that? And once it happened and, you have that, saw the picture with the ball, what was kind of that atmosphere afterwards? Because it wasn't at home and it was on the road. It seemed like you had to kind of compensate for it not being there.
There were whispers on the bench. We knew what was happening. I was like, guys. And then it happened and she's on the court and, you get emotional for those things because you're just so happy for her and you're so happy for the team because it's like, it's her award, but it's also like a celebration of what we do together. And so those things are just amazing each time everybody gets an award and she gets a lot of them. So it's exciting every time we get to celebrate her and what she does and how hard she works.
McKenna, how did it feel for you to be able to kind of get surrounded by your teammates there? Because I know we talk about how you deflect a little bit, but I mean, you got that picture with the ball, your friends hyping you up. I mean, what did it mean to you to kind of have that happen as you broke the record?
Yeah, it's really cool. I think Kari was counting, and I think she counted one wrong. I think it was one wrong or something. So I think we celebrated a little early, but that's okay. But for me, I think it's really good that I don't know that kind of stuff because I remember, I think it was like 1,000 kills. I know I needed 4. And I went into the game and it took me to the last swing to get 4 kills. And that's very unlike me. So I was like, I'm not counting. Then Kari's over here. You need 7 more. You need 6 more. You need 5 more. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are not helping.
You know,
But it's great. They're great about it. They do a great job of hyping me up, even though I'm like, shh, focus. And they're like, no, we don't need to focus right now. So they do a good job of getting me outside the focus zone for a little bit.
Well, what's unique about that match, and Bryson and I, there are a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on, because yes, the worst secret in the world, me, Bryson, the SID, we're all keeping track of, okay, when is she going to break the record? We're trying to, I'm selfishly hoping it's at home, except we realized you got off to such a great start this year, McKenna, that you ruined that. So, so now we know it's on the road. One problem, the Lipscomb match is not televised. And I remember the SID, I think Dressy's parents was reached out to see, hey, are you there? Can you get video? Like, we were scrambling. I think Kansas finally agreed to shoot the footage of the record kills. But there was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama over this, because everybody was kind of like, we got to get footage of this. Like, it's 2022. I don't know if you were aware of that, McKenna, or not, what was going on behind the scenes. And were your family able to see it? Were they there?
My grandparents drove down, and then my boyfriend tried to surprise me coming down too, but Kari ruined that. So
Accident.
What?
I was the only one that knew, so he texted me, and then he's out in the gym, but we're still all in the locker room. But for some reason, Kari walks out there, and she comes back. She goes, McKenna, you know your boyfriend's here, and I just stared at her. I'm like, bruh.
She's like, worst night of my life.
Yeah, he drove down to watch because it was not for the game, but for the award. So he could drive down. My mom was coaching and my dad was out of town. So my dad almost tried to come. He was in Iowa, so he tried to come down, but couldn't. And yeah, so I had a little fan group, and I knew it was getting close when they all had their phones out like this. Like, I'm like, okay, you guys have to be a little secretive. Like, there's hardly anyone in the gym and your phones are out. I know what's about to happen, so now I have to perform.
She's on the court like, guys, focus. Guys, stop, focus. And we're like,
this is why it should have been at home. At least that way it would have been everybody that was doing it and not just a few people with an empty gym.
Well, now we know, too. We should have just hit up the Melville fan club there, and we could have gotten footage that way.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, did the boyfriend get video? Did he shoot video? Was he? No?
I think they did. They
Okay.
videotaped the wrong point again. I think they were on Kari's page. We got like 30 minutes of film.
30 minutes
I don't
of
know
film.
who
Wow.
actually captured that video. I have no idea.
You know, so you break the record of the reason I want to bring up Menchikova again is because when you look at the record book, because McKenna, you have been on teams with plenty of people that are like all-time great UCF volleyball players. I mentioned Anne-Marie and Narissa earlier. Abby, of course, was so close to being top 10 single season in blocks. But you look at the history of this program, you have Renata Menchikova, Emily Keisler, and Tyra Harper, 3 of they decorate the top of record books. You have the 2000 team with Sante, Jenny Frank, you know, people that are on the Ring of Honor that's on the gym there. So, and I know you guys talk about the history of this program and continuing that history. And so from the perspective of that team, how much do you kind of look at that team dynamic in how you end up getting to these individual points, both as individuals and then getting to the heights that you have as a team? I mean, you've been to the NCAA tournament for 5 straight seasons. Yeah.
And if my biggest thing is the Ring of Honor is for names and people, but the biggest thing that I looked at when I first came in is how many times have they been to the NCAA tournament? What's that? What does that look like? How many times have they won conference? And I think they won conference twice before we got there, maybe once or twice. I can't remember. But I think that's the biggest thing that I looked at. I was like, okay, we need to change that. Like, I don't care whose name goes up on that banner. They might be great players, but how fast can we get more banners for a whole team? And that's something that I was dedicated to. I know Jordan Pingle's like, this is our goal. This is our goal. We had little notes in our lockers freshman year, and this is our goal, and we are getting there. And to have that as our goal, not, oh, I want to be on the Ring of Honor, I want my name on the wall someday. I feel like that took away from the team potentially. So I think us coming in and saying we all want to be on that wall, all of our names want to be on that wall where it says 2018 conference champions or NCAA appearance. So that has a whole bunch more weight, in my opinion, than just a singular name on a wall. But to be able to go and look and say, we did this, and this together is so impactful.
Well, and part of the success in history was making 2018. You mentioned that was the first time the program was ranked in the Division I era. You would be ranked after this Kansas weekend again, and I'll never forget. I think it was a Monday media availability. Young Bryson, poor Bryson, he gets off class, so he goes to the media availability. I think McKenna, you had to talk, and Coach had to talk. Todd had to talk, and Todd was go ahead and was say, Bryson, how would you describe how you described the ranking system there? Wasn't the biggest fan of it, right? Is that a fair assumption of how Todd explained it to you in the interview process there? Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm while you're telling me this, Bryson, you called me about this. I'm seeing players, I won't mention names, some of them are in this room, are on social media liking and posting and retweeting the rankings. So I'm getting mixed messages here. The coach is not real big deal about, it's no big deal. Meanwhile, the players are excited they're ranked. So I want to ask you, the players, when you're ranked, is that a big deal? Are you excited? I know it's not the end of the world. You all understand you have matches, but still, there's pride about being ranked. Yes?
Yes, I think the first time you go into that ranking, it's like, all right, we did it. Now, how long can we hold on to it? So then it's kind of like all right, now we have work to do. Like, we're there, and when you sit 20 or below, you lose a game and you're basically off that list, it seems like, especially in our conference and our schedule. So if we were to lose a game, we would drop instantly. So we knew right away, like, all right, here we go. We're on the board. Let's cook. So I think that was our mindset. And Todd was very happy, by the way. He just says that on interviews, but he was very happy.
I knew it. I knew it. Bryson, Todd used you, Bryson. Todd used you.
It is. Hey, it is what it is. You gotta put out your opinion out there somewhere.
Yeah, Kari, Dresden, what do you think when the rankings there?
I kind of like what McKenna was saying. I mean, it is very cool when you break the top 25, and I think it honestly gave us a lot of motivation because, like you said, like McKenna said, when you are below the 20, when you kind of lose a game, especially in our conference, you most likely will drop out. So I think it gave us a lot of motivation, like, hey, let's keep this ranking and let's see how far we can go with this kind of thing. And I also think it's huge for our conference. I think it was huge for our team, but then huge for our conference, for the American to make it even, and eventually Houston make it into the top 25. I mean, usually you don't really hear a ton about our conference, but I think our conference is starting to move up, and now going to the Big 12, our name will be out there even more. But yeah, so I would agree. We were all super jazzed and excited. And every time the weekly rankings came out, even if we didn't move, even if we stayed at 23 for a couple of weeks, we were still jazzed about it and excited that our name was still out there.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting. And I think that first week in the ranking was like, hey, like, take us seriously. Like, I think that's, like I said, I live on social media. And so obviously I'm the one out here retweeting, reposting, sending it to everyone. And I know, because it was more so like, I'm first of all so proud, and it's, our conference doesn't get a lot of recognition, as they said. And so when we break into the ranking like that, we had to claw our way up there. We had to work for every single recognition and point. And it was exciting, and it was almost like, okay, now we got to work harder. We're not just staying here. We got to work even harder than we just did to get here if we want to move up, stay the same, stay in the ranking. And I think it was just a big kind of like, take us seriously now. We're here, we're serious about what we're going to do, and we're a competition for every single team in the nation.
Well, you talk about, you lose and you potentially fall out of the top 25. You talk about going to the Big 12. You both have that in common with a certain program known as the Houston Cougars, and that was the first time you guys came to end up having a loss on the season when you travel to Houston back in early October. Tell me about kind of how that game served as an inflection point for you guys this season, because you look at this whole season and it's full of W's, sweep, and same with conference play. There's all over the place, but something different there about that Houston match. So tell me, how did that Houston away match kind of serve as an inflection point for all of you guys? And Dresden, I want to start with you on this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were all not super happy with how that game went. But I honestly really think that game gave us a lot more drive, a lot more motivation, competitiveness to be like, that's not who we are. And if we want to go get this conference championship, we need to be better. And I think either the next game or the next day we were at practice, we were all, our heads were on straight. We were there determined, ready to get better. We knew that we had to put in a lot more work to get that conference championship, because it would probably, like it did, come down to us in Houston again based on how they were playing. So I really think it kind of steered us in the right direction. Unfortunately, we don't want the loss, but I honestly think it was almost kind of good for us to get refocused and kind of see where our values were in again.
Kari?
Yeah, that was rough. It hits hard, and I know immediately after literally after the last point, Mac brings us into the huddle, and she's like, "This does not define us." Like immediately, we're all very angry about the loss and very sad. The initial reaction is like, we're undefeated, da da da. But then, we're in the locker room, we're like, this is going to be a testament to who we are. And as Dresden said, you don't want the loss, but I think it rocked us in a good way. And we were like, all right, we got to lock in. This is not a cakewalk of a season, nor do we think it would be, but it was kind of just like, shell shock. And we all want that match back, but we ended up doing what we needed to do in the end of the season. And we talk a lot about how we beat ourselves that match. None of us are happy with how we played. And so I think that it was good that was happened, even though it really sucked in the moment. And I think we showed who we were after that.
McKenna, Kari mentions how you kind of got the team together. Can you give me your perspective of what you were going through after that?
Yeah, I was more disappointed just in myself. That was my biggest thing. It's like I kind of walked in thinking, oh, we got this. Not really thinking, we have to fight really hard for this, or this is just going to be easy. So at first I was like, oh, we got this. And this is our 4th week in a row now on the road. So we're all just exhausted. And I didn't think twice about it. I was like, oh, we're exhausted. Oh, well. But then it hit, and my game was bad. And I think that trickled down to other people. So I think that game was a really big eye-opening thing of, we can't just rely on one person's emotions and one person's energy. So everyone's got to have kind of their own little game that they're playing, or own little mindset, because for the past 4 weeks before that, we were all on the train of me and the mindset, like whatever Max says is going to go. So then when I crapped and I shut down, everyone shut down with me. And I was like, no, this is not what we need. But again, that's just such a good learning experience, because after that, I'd have bad games here and there, and other people could pick up the level just by themselves. They didn't have to rely on me to get myself out and then try and get them out as well. So they did a really good job. Just an eye-opening experience, I think, for everyone to kind of be like, okay, we got this. We don't need to rely on one person. We can't rely on one person. And everyone else has the ability to be relied on. And I think that's something that we bought into, is everyone can be relied on. We started using our middles a lot more. We started using our right sides. We used our back row. We used those opportunities a lot more, and successfully. So when we got to the bigger games, we could perform.
And not to use it as an excuse, because Houston, as it turns out, as we found out, it was a great team. So they deserved that match to win. But you mentioned it, alluded to it, that you were on the road for like a month in a row, which wasn't scheduled that way. You lost 2 home matches during this stretch, with Wichita State and Tulsa due to Hurricane Ian, as Florida had a fun year with hurricanes this year, historic year. Take me through that little stretch there, because that was unique in that, you didn't know if you were going to play the Wichita or Tulsa match. There, you ended up traveling over there to play them in Wichita, both teams there, because you had to basically get away from the hurricane and the storm. But basically, as a result, had to be on the road for basically a month in a row, McKenna.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of planning. It was a lot of, okay, we need to go with the flow. And if anybody knows me, I'm not go with the flow. So I'm like, tell me the schedule. Tell me what we're doing. And everyone was like, we don't have a schedule, Mac. Just tell them to do this. So I was like, okay, we can do that. But it was a disaster. Hurricane week was an absolute disaster. And the second we got there, I was like, okay, we are here to play volleyball, tune out the outside noise. Like, we're here. We might as well do something. And I think everyone, again, bought into that of, okay, let's just go play volleyball. And we did. We tuned out the outside noise, and we just went and played. We traveled for over 24 hours just to get to Wichita. But it was a disaster, just to say the least. But we came out and we played as well as we possibly could. I think we beat Wichita pretty well, pretty quickly, something that we weren't expecting. And I think that was something really fortunate for us. But then when we got to Houston, we really needed that competition from other teams. So that was kind of another shock to us. So when we got to Houston, we're like, oh no, we haven't been on the road and played a really tough opponent in our conference that's going to push us to 5 sets yet. And we didn't really know how to control that or understand that very much.
Hurricanes or snowstorms? Which one's like the more stressful to prepare for? You two, I'm assuming you two have had the hurricane. Really? Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
I at the time that weekend really sucked, and I remember the morning before we left for Atlanta, or I don't even know.
Yes.
But absolutely insane. We all brought our empty suitcases after like 10 minutes of being, oh, by the way, we're leaving today. We're in the locker room, like, okay, we got to go to practice, even though the campus is evacuating. And we're all just like going insane. And I'm over here having anxiety. And McKenna's like, calm down. She's trying to get us all like, it's okay. But now that I look back, I'm so happy that happened, because that 8-hour bus ride is like some of the bonding moments that you just don't get back when we're all absolutely delirious and sleep deprived. Like at the time we're miserable, but looking back, like, I forget the Houston match. That bus ride is what I remember, and you know, the hotel, and just like the laughs we have when we're completely off the rails. Yeah, grateful for that now.
Were there any funny inside jokes that you guys ended up doing when you guys went back to Wichita to face the Shockers the second time, and considering you were now back in Wichita after that first time?
Well, that was our third match at Wichita that year, which is very interesting. So I don't think anything too crazy happened. We dressed up on Halloween. You saw that on social media. But yeah, I think just the bus ride, just getting all the way there. Remember, I cooked food for USF's team because they were stuck in Orlando. So I cooked some food for them, and we made like vegetable plates and like all this stuff. So like if they're ready for the hurricane. And then we ended up going on the bus. So I was like, they get half the food. We get the other half of the food. So we took all the vegetables, and we all sat in the back of the bus for like an hour and a half and just gossiped about nothing.
Down. Yeah, I think the best inside joke, now that we're graduated. Sorry, Todd, to call you out here. But Todd forgot that Emma Trueluck was on the bus. And we had a couple players stay back. You know, they weren't mentally like prepared for it, which is totally okay. We were like, hey, if you're concerned about this, like, we don't want to put anybody's safety at risk. We don't want to stress anybody out. Like, you can stay back if you want. And we had some players take that choice, which is totally fine. And he, for some reason, thought that Emma was one of them. And so he called her on the bus, and Emma's like, guys, Todd's calling me. And she picks up, and he's like, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, we're just on the bus, you know, riding to wherever. And Emma's like, okay. And then we get to the end of the phone call, and she goes, guys, Todd doesn't know I'm on the bus. And so the rest of the trip, or whatever, we're at Wichita, we're like, Todd, Emma's here. So yeah, I think that was the funniest thing that had happened.
It's a unique phone call there. There you go. Spending time on the bus. Trip. Well, that's a wild trips. That's some wild trips there. But man, it's a great bonding moment. As you mentioned you only had the one loss against Houston. You would go on a win streak after that. But what was that like? Because Houston didn't blink either. They didn't lose. They went on a win streak themselves. So it's almost like, who's going to blink first as we're watching from afar? Were you following what they were doing? Did you keep track? Did you block that out? Because you now realize if you make, you have one more miscue, your conference championship goals are out. So what was that like chasing them? Because they weren't losing and you weren't losing.
I think we tuned out the we can't lose aspect, but we did watch what Houston was doing. And I think that gave us good insight of like their tendencies and stuff like that. We would watch some of their games even before film. So we knew what they were doing, but we definitely tuned out the, we can't lose right now. Or if we lose, we're done. Or if this, and it was like, no, we can't, you can't think like that. Otherwise it's going to happen. Just like serving, don't miss, guess what you're going to do? You're going to miss.
I mean, we're all competitive, and so of course, you know, we're keeping track of like what our biggest competitor is doing, and I think that's just who we are at nature. And so, you know, obviously we check in on Houston, what they were doing, just as I'm sure they were doing with us, because we knew it would come down to that match at the end of the year for conference champion. And thankfully we got it at home because our crowd helps us in the most amazing ways. And you know, we knew they already had part of the share because they had won, and so it was kind of like a chip on our shoulder. And when we got into that match, we knew what we had to do.
That's a good segue, Kari. See, you know this podcast thing, how this works. So let's take you through that Houston match, because that was hyped. I mean, it was building each win. Every time you both won, it was building. I think McKenna, during the year, you even said there was that elephant in the room. So you all knew it was coming to that big match. Both ranked in the top 25. First time ever in the history of the American that happened. It's senior night, oh, by the way, for the three of you. So there's a lot at stake. So take me through going into that match and the hype. And you mentioned it, Kari. I mean, it turned out to be 1,566 people, which is one of the largest crowds ever for a UCF volleyball match. What was it like? Because on the one hand, you've got, you know, two ranked teams, a conference championship at stake, senior night, maybe one last, you know, a case to host to the committee for the winner. A lot going on here, and oh, by the way, you got all these family members around you, right? So, like, in what could be your last home match. So, take me through that going into that match.
For me personally, I mean, like, yeah, we all knew it was senior night, so it was like emotional, but yet exciting at the same time, because you're celebrating your career, and yeah, it's really sad that it's over, but you get to look back at all the people you met, all your accomplishments, all the things you did, and honestly, like, our team was so much fun. They decorated our locker room and they got little presents and everything, and it made it so special that it was more of a happy moment than an emotional one. I mean, it was definitely emotional after the game when we were getting our plaques and everything, but I think that almost helped us kind of set the stage and get us really excited and motivated for the game. We decided to do all of our senior night stuff after the game because we didn't want that emotional stuff before the game, which I think was a huge part to still stay in the right mindset, stay committed to go out there and play our game. I think that's exactly what all of us knew what we had to do. We just, yeah, like Kari said, they already had clinched at least half of the title. So we had to just go out there and completely just play our game. And yes, it went to 5, but I still think that's what we did. I mean, we ended up coming out with the win. So that was amazing. And honestly, that just made the night even more special. But yeah, I honestly will remember that night forever because it was so fun, and I loved being able to spend it with the crowd, UCF Nation. I mean, a lot of my family was there, and just the team and everyone. So it was very special.
It was definitely pretty special, for sure. Let me ask you this, Kari. Were you all players even aware of all the wacky tie-breaking scenarios for the automatic bid? Were you even informed about it, or did they just not tell you? Because there was some wacky stuff like if you win in a certain amount of sets and points. It was kind of crazy. Were you informed of that, or did you all block that? Had no idea?
As I said, we're extremely competitive, and so we were made aware, and we wanted to be aware as much as it was like, okay, no matter what, we have to win. We're going to go into that no matter if it was like, if you win by this, if you win by that, we were like, we just need to win. We want to win. It doesn't matter if we win in 3, 4, 5, we want to win, and that's our goal. And that's what Max stressed to us, especially. She's like, doesn't matter if we win in the 4th by 3 points or the 3rd by 10 points, we're winning, and we'll worry about everything else after. And I think as a team, that's what we collectively focused on, was winning. We weren't concerned about how much or how many sets or anything like that. We just wanted the W.
It was a back and forth match. Incredible emotions, back and forth. They win the first set. You win the next 2 sets. They win the 4th. So, McKenna, now we get to that 5th set. What's going through your mind? Because I remember you and Amber decided to come back, and one of the reasons you came back was to win a 5th title. Now it comes down to this set. You know, if you have to win this set to win a conference title. And, oh, by the way, it's probably your last set at home. Did that cross your mind? Give me your emotions as you get into that 5th set.
I was pretty exhausted at that point, so I was like, all right, 15 more points. Let's go. But that was it. That was my goal. I think Amber knew kind of how gassed I was, and looking back in that game or that set, I think Claudia got 5 of the however many kills. She got 5 kills in a row. And that's huge in that aspect. And in that point, she served us to end the game, just things like that. So again, we learned from the first Houston game that we needed other people to step up. And that is a perfect example of who stepped up when we needed her to step up. Because I was in the front row with her, but I didn't get a lot of sets. I didn't need to get a lot of sets because Claudia was finishing the ball. And that's super important. But that whole game, I think the whole thing, we always talk about prior preparation. And I think that was my biggest goal that I've learned throughout the 5 years is we need to be prepared going into every single game, especially NCAA tournaments, because there's more stress and more everything. But especially this Houston game, we had all of these different things happening and all of these ifs, ands, or buts. But I kept reiterating to the team, like, this is what's going to happen. Like, it is going to be emotional. It is going to be loud. It is going to be, the refs aren't going to make the right calls. This, and this is going to happen. Todd's going to be doing this. Brian's going to be doing this. Like, if we could prepare, so when we do see it, we don't freak out. And I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from the past few years. Before that, like, know that that's going to happen and be okay with it. So the more that we could prepare the younger girls, the girls that might have not already been in that situation, this is what it looks like. So honestly, when I got to the 5th set, I wasn't thinking like, oh, this is super intense. I was like, okay, we've seen this before. We've seen this crowd. I knew that this is what the crowd was going to be. I knew the coaches were going to be this. I knew the refs were going to make the bad calls here, stuff like that. So we understood what was happening.
I love it. You're calling out the refs. That's good.
Yep.
You know, they weren't as bad as the Miami match, in fairness.
They didn't make bad calls, but they took a long time.
Oh, yeah, they did.
The game.
Yeah, they did do that. They
ruined the momentum. So.
That's true. I will back you on that. You end up winning the 5th set, 15-12. Dramatic match. I remember it was an emotional moment. You all hugged each other. I'm going to ask Dressy and McKenna, both of you, this, because I asked Todd this. I've been going to volleyball for 20-some years in that building. The 2 best matches that I've ever seen in person was the Houston match and the Cincinnati match, 2019 championship match. First of all, do you both agree those are the 2 best matches you've been a part of in your careers to this point, your whole time? Okay. So I want to ask you both this. Which match was better, in your opinion? Which one do you, when you think back, which one was the better match? I'll tell you what Todd said, but I want your thoughts first. Dressy, I'll go with you first here. Which one of the 2? Oh, she doesn't like the fact I went first. But,
I didn't want to go first. No, it's okay. I don't know. I mean, both of them have really high highs and so a couple lows, but I really, oh God, I don't know. They're like really even, but I almost want to say the Houston one just because it was senior night. So it was like a little bit bigger of a deal, but I will never forget the Cincinnati match. I mean, my mom just brought it up the other day about talking about just like our favorite games that are in the best venues that I've played at and stuff like that. So, I mean, both of them were super fun but I think winning that Cincinnati one, because at that time Cincinnati were our rivals, because our conference was split, so we never really got to see Houston very often, but yeah, I guess I would have to say the Houston game. That's my opinion.
Back?
Yep, I'd say Houston as well. Very similar situations, I think, because Cincinnati, think they won the conference, the regular season conference, and then we came and beat them in the tournament. So again, the Cincinnati one had a lot of pressure because at that time, if we didn't win, we weren't going to the NCAA tournament. And I think I was a sophomore, so I didn't necessarily even realize kind of what that meant or things like that. Like, I was like, oh, we're just going to play another game. Like, didn't think like, oh, if we lose, we're not going to the NCAA tournament. And that's something that I just didn't think of. But this one with Houston, I was like, we need to win. Like, we've got this. But I think like this year in particular, the whole team was just so bought in that we wanted to do it for each other. We didn't necessarily care about the outside, this or that. And I think it was really cool because Houston was our rival, and the whole team was our rival. I think they have 7 or 8 really great players, whereas Cincinnati, our rival was Jordan Thompson. And single-handedly, Jordan Thompson was our rival. So I think it was really cool that we had to defend and we had to use all aspects of our game to beat Houston, not just a singular player had to beat her.
Todd basically said the same thing you just did, McKenna. That was his answer, is the same thing, because he felt Houston was a better overall team, more balanced than Cincinnati. Whereas Cincinnati, I mean, they had good players, but it was Jordan Thompson who I remember in that match. I think she had like 38 kills, 20 digs. Like she was not really from this planet, and rightfully so. She turned out to be an Olympian from that match. But I was the statisticians. That Cincinnati match was on ESPNU, so I was courtside there. But I agree. I think Houston and Todd agree. I think that Houston match, with all that what was at stake, the history, that was a pretty special match. And what a way to go out for all of you, as it turns out, was your last home match. If that's your last home match, not a better way to go out than a dramatic 5-set to win a conference title. Am I right?
That is right.
Kari, I know you may not have had the background of that 2019 match against Jordan Thompson, but I wanted to ask you, because given, the journey that your volleyball career has taken you, how much was that Houston match like a climax for you as far as your career goes with just that environment at that Houston match? Because I could not remember a volleyball match in either of the seasons, like both this one and the last one that I covered, being that much of just a loud and raucous environment.
I was a blubbering mess that entire night, day. And I think something that was really cool is all of anyone who wasn't a senior, you could kind of feel that they were like, we're doing this for you guys. And, as I said, the team is so close. And so before the game, we're opening presents and reading letters and everything. And everybody's like, I'm not going to read the letters till after this is home. And I'm over here like reading my letters in my locker, just like bawling my eyes out before the game. And then, it gets to a point where it's like, all right, snap out of it. We got to play a game now. But, I take special sentiment to every single moment at UCF. And I kind of knew that was going to be our last home game possibly. And I think I just sucked up every moment of it, of joy. And as soon as we got that last point as a team, and, I didn't have a great match. Either of the Houston games, I did not play well, but I was trying to do anything I possibly could to help the team. I was trying to keep my energy up, support everyone around me, like even if I got a little block touch or an off block or that type of stuff. And that's all I cared about, was winning, wasn't concerned about my own play at all. And as soon as we won that match, I kind of just fell to the floor and was like, gosh, I love this team so much and I love this gym. And it was just such an exciting moment. We're all hugging, and I don't know, it was an amazing, amazing night. And the fact that it happened on senior night, it's just something so special to our hearts. And I will definitely remember that night forever as well.
That entire arena stayed too for the senior ceremony. I mean, speak about that, because you had great fan support throughout the year. The Miami match was a big crowd. I mean, and then the Houston match, big crowd. I mean, that crowd really helped you there too, for that environment. I mean, that's an environment I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think it was like 8-8. I think it was 8-8, and I was like, everyone's standing. Like, once we switched sides, I looked up and like nobody was sitting, and I was like, "Ma, were they standing the whole time?"
I think they were standing the entire fifth set.
Yeah, that's what Mom said. I was like,
they were.
Yeah, I only noticed it when we flipped at 8-8.
Yeah, same. I didn't notice until we switched sides either. I'm like, how long have they been standing?
Yeah, but that's pretty cool. And then it was funny because the announcer was like, when we got to the 14th point, they're like, all right, Night Nation, everyone on your feet. Everybody was already. I remember my boyfriend was like, what? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's called scripted PA there. That's what that sounds like to me there. No, you're right. I watched it because I was obviously calling the match. Everybody was literally standing the whole match. And I think everybody just enjoyed being there. I mean, Bryson was there around the crowd. I mean, right, Bryson? Everybody just felt like they was just having a great time with this match. And it was just sort of roller coaster. And it's like, we gotta get these girls through here. It's just it's a match we'll never forget. It's a night we'll never forget. And credit to all of you for providing that memory, which sets you up. Now you're going to the tournament. You get sent out to Penn State. What was your reaction? When you found out you're going to Penn State? I remember I asked you, McKenna and Kari, then I kind of had a brain lock there because I said, well, it's kind of fitting the three of you all end up in Big Ten territory, that you get to end up in Penn State. And then I remember Kari played against Penn State in Indiana there. But Penn State, kind of if you had to, end your careers in a Big Ten place.
You know, we were excited where we were going to go. We knew there was a slim chance that we could host, but I don't think we were shocked that we didn't. We didn't have any really predictions of where we go or who we would play. And as soon as it happened, we were like, sweet, let's go. We're ready. It wasn't like, oh no, we got to play this team or this is what's happening. It was like, all right, let's go. Like business per usual. We know what we got to do. And yeah, we were just ready to get down to business.
Yeah. 20. You end up the year 28-2. What do you want people to remember about this particular team? 28-2, the most wins for any UCF volleyball team since '97. What is it the lasting legacy of this team? Starting with you, Dresden.
I mean, our record shows it, but I really just think it's our culture. I really think it's the group of girls. These girls are what make this team function, and our coaches. But I mean, our girls, like I said, we're with each other 24/7. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get tired of each other. You might want to be like, okay, I'm kind of done with you right now. But like, you still got to play with each other, but we're not ones to be like holding grudges or anything. Like, yeah, I might be a little annoyed with so and so or whatever. Like, I'm not really feeling this, but like, I am still gonna work hard with them no matter what, because I'm here for the team. But yeah, honestly, like I think the culture is the one thing that I would say for people to remember us by, because I mean, Kari can justify too, because she's been on multiple different teams, but I have thought about, oh, like I wonder what it's like, what other teams are like, what is their chemistry and what are their cultures like. And I try to think about it, and I can't explain it because I've never been on another team, but I really can't figure out a way how it could be any better than ours. So
yep, 100%. And I think the legacy that this team left for me is that it's a testament that you can have fun and love each other and enjoy the game and goof around and mess up and still be extremely successful. And you know, the practices are going to stick with me more than the games, because I've never laughed so much in my life. As we're getting work done and as we're working our butts off, we're also doing cartwheels on the side and tackling each other when we're on the same team, because we're just so excited, like looking forward to going in early every single day at pre-pass just to see my teammates is like an anomaly. And it's just the most amazing feeling that I can't describe. And I made all the TikToks of us messing around during practice, and people are like, oh my gosh, like this is what a practice can look like you guys are still so good or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, because you can work hard and have fun and get the best of both worlds. And so that's definitely the legacy that I think this team left, is the culture, as Drezzy said, and just, you know, how joyful it was to be around these people.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like the legacy you leave is not just on the court, it's what you do out of the court or what you're doing with your teammates. And I think we've done such a good job of understanding each other's personalities. And I think if you don't understand that as a coach or as a player, you're never going to get people to perform on the court or in life. And I think that's so important for leaders and other people to understand. Is this year in particular, we found how to get everyone to perform. And I think for me to perform, I need to have fun and be joking and doing silly things here and there. And some people need to be focused. So I think we've learned this year is like they can be focused and I can be goofing around and practice can still run as normal. And that's something so important. I think that this team has left probably for the coaches is like, hey, we've got to find how to get all these players to play together, and to keep the joking mentality. Is going to help some players, but not all of them. And then to be serious for some is going to help too.
You know, McKenna, I remember that because during that senior night, I know we've had the running theme of, you know, you kind of deflect a little from your individual accomplishments, but that senior night, senior night moment, I still have the video. It was your moment where you walked out on that court with your family and with that whole environment that had just like stood for the entire fifth set for that Houston match, applauding for you there. As someone who, again, you know, does that kind of deflects from the individual, have that moment for yourself. What was kind of going through your head in that moment, and what is it meant to you to do what you have done over the course of your career? Because we mentioned Jordan Thompson, and you're right up there in the one of the greatest killers.
The Michael Jordan of volleyball, Kari Zumach's quote right there. That's in the post game there at the Penn State match.
It's great. I mean, when you walk out there and you see your teammates clapping for you and you see everyone in the stands cheering for you, they're proud of you. And that's something that you don't always get to see, or you see it on Twitter, you see the likes or something like that, but you don't see 300, 400 people clapping. Maybe for you. I thought it was for me. I took it for me. But it's really cool, and it's cool to hear, and it's cool to see. And I know they said some of the awards that I got in the background, but I just kind of soaked it in. I kind of looked at people, super proud to be a part of this program. And it was super cool to see my teammates cheering me on, and just kind of be there. But again, I was proud to be walking with my parents, proud to proud to look at my teammates and just be like, we did this together. Without them, you don't have it. So, yeah.
All right, well, we're going to end it there before we get all teary-eyed here.
I wasn't trying to.
No, I know. It's tough, man. It's tough. Hey, listen, the three of you have been awesome. Part of a great group of girls, a great group of team. I mean, all the players. I mean, Claudia Dillon obviously was incredible in that Houston match. Amber Olsen, all the players. On behalf of Bryson and Knight Nation, thank you all for what you've done for UCF. You're all going to be remembered. You all have rings. McKenna, you got 5. You're dressing 4?
4.
And you got 1, Kari. You're getting your first. So you all earned it. Hey, and thank you so much for reflecting on this incredible year with us. I know it's been a little long, over an hour, but that's what happens. We have success. It takes a while to cover everything. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and congrats on the success. And we won't be too much strangers, but thank you for all you've done for UCF.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.